In the winter of 1547, the once mighty King Henry VIII of England faced the end of his reign and the end of his life. Once a golden prince, handsome, athletic, admired across Europe, Henry now lay in his chambers at Whitehall Palace, consumed by pain, paranoia, and the decaying weight of his own body. These were the horrific final days of King Henry VIII. Henry's decline had not been sudden. By the age of 55, the king's body had betrayed him. Years of feasting, hunting accidents, and unchecked indulgence had left him grotesquely obese, so large that he had to be winched onto horseback and carried about in specially constructed chairs. His once piercing eyes now sat deep in a swollen, puffy face. His waist had expanded to more than 50 inches. Worst of all was the ulcer on his leg, a festering wound that refused to heal. It leaked pus and blood, the stench filling whatever room he entered. Courtiers would gag at the odor, though none dared speak of it. Infection and pain haunted Henry, making him short-tempered and violent. He lashed out at servants, nobles, and even his closest advisers. As his body weakened, Henry's mind grew darker. The once charismatic king descended into suspicion and cruelty. He had already executed 2 of his wives, Anne Boleyn and Catherine Howard. Friends from his youth were gone, some dead on the scaffold, others fallen from favor. No one was safe. Henry feared betrayal at every corner. He saw conspiracies in whispers, treason in hesitation. Even his final wife, the clever and cautious Catherine Parr, narrowly avoided death after Henry briefly turned against her. She survived only by humbling herself and convincing him of her loyalty. By early January of 1547, Henry could no longer rise from bed without assistance. His legs were swollen and ulcerated. His breathing was shallow. Physicians applied poultices and potions, but medicine could not save him. The once towering figure of Renaissance England was reduced to a prisoner within his own body. His courtiers knew the end was near, but few dared say the words aloud. To predict the king's death was considered treason, and so they waited in silence, while Henry drifted in and out of delirium. On his deathbed, Henry's thoughts turned to salvation. The king, who had broken with Rome, dissolved monasteries, and declared himself supreme head of the Church of England, now faced the weight of his sins. He ordered Archbishop Thomas Cranmer to his side. When asked if he died in faith of Christ, Henry could no longer speak. He gripped the archbishop's hand once, then twice, signaling his final answer. On January 27, 1547, in the early hours of the morning, Henry VIII drew his final breath. He was 55 years old. The king, who had reigned for 37 turbulent years, the king of 6 wives, of schism and execution, of opulence and tyranny, was gone. In death, his body was no more dignified than in life. His coffin, poorly sealed, began to leak as it rested overnight in Sion Abbey. According to later accounts, dogs were found licking the fluids that seeped from the casket. For some, it was divine judgment, the mighty monarch, undone even in death by decay. Henry's final days reflected the man he had become, broken, feared, and loathed by many. Yet his legacy was monumental. His break from the Catholic Church forever changed the religious landscape of England. His heirs would inherit both his throne and the chaos he left behind. Edward VI, a frail boy of 9, succeeded him, only to be followed by his daughters, Mary and Elizabeth, 2 queens who would redefine the very soul of the kingdom. And so ended the life of Henry VIII, a king remembered not for peace nor for prosperity, but for power, violence, and the destruction left in his wake. In his last days, the Golden Prince had become a grotesque shadow of himself, a warning of how absolute power can consume not only the body, but the soul.